The information in this video is for educational and entertainment purposes only. It is not intended as financial or investment advice. Please consult with a qualified professional before making any financial decisions. Imagine you're in a self-driving car, cruising down a busy city street. Suddenly, a kid on a scooter darts out from between two parked cars, directly into your path. There's no time for a human to react, no time to even gasp. But your car doesn't hesitate. It swerves with impossible precision, missing the child by inches, while simultaneously calculating the trajectory of the car in the next lane to avoid a secondary collision. The entire event is over in less than a second. It wasn't a miracle. It wasn't luck. It was a decision made not in some distant data center 1,000 miles away, but right there on the corner of 5th and Main. This isn't science fiction. This is the promise of a technology that is quietly being embedded into the concrete and steel of America's smartest cities. And the cities that ignore it are at risk of being left in the digital dust. We've all been sold the dream of the smart city, a utopia of efficiency where traffic flows like water, emergency services arrive instantly, and the power grid never fails. But for most of us, the reality feels dumber than ever. We're stuck in the same gridlock, our packages get stolen from our porches, and we watch our energy bills climb for no apparent reason. The problem is that for decades, our cities have been trying to get smarter using yesterday's internet. They've been trying to run a supercomputer on a dial-up modem. Every piece of data, from a traffic sensor, a security camera, a police car, has to make a long, slow journey to a centralized cloud server, get processed, and then travel all the way back before a decision can be made. In the world of data, this delay, this latency, is the difference between life and death. It's the difference between a self-driving car avoiding a child and a catastrophic accident. It's the difference between a surgeon controlling a remote robotic arm with perfect precision and a fatal slip. The old way is too slow, too clumsy, and too vulnerable for the future we need to build. This is why the most forward-thinking urban planners and tech visionaries in the United States are placing a multi-billion-dollar bet on a radical new architecture. It's a one-two punch of technology that you've probably heard of, but you've never been told how they truly work together to change everything. We're talking about 5G and edge computing. Now, forget everything you think you know about 5G. This isn't just about downloading movies faster on your phone. That's like saying the invention of the interstate highway system was just about getting your groceries home quicker. The real revolution of 5G is its ability to handle 1 million devices per square kilometer with almost zero delay. It's the super fast, super reliable nervous system for a city. But a nervous system is useless without a brain. And that's where edge computing comes in. If the traditional cloud is a giant centralized brain located in a massive warehouse in Virginia or Oregon, edge computing is like giving the city millions of tiny, powerful, localized brains. Instead of sending data on a long round trip, the processing happens right where the data is created, at the edge of the network. It happens inside the traffic light. It happens on the security camera pole. It happens in the self-driving car itself. By combining the lightning-fast connectivity of 5G with the instant reflex processing of edge computing, you create something entirely new. You create a city that can think. A city with reflexes. A city that can see a problem, analyze it, and solve it in milliseconds, not minutes. Over the course of this video, we are going to pull back the curtain on this incredible transformation. You will learn exactly why cities like Las Vegas, Phoenix, and New York are pouring fortunes into this infrastructure. We're not just going to talk theory. We are going to show you the real-world applications that are being deployed right now. You'll discover how this technology is creating a protective shield over intersections to prevent car accidents before they happen. You'll see how it's helping first responders see through walls and navigate burning buildings. You'll understand how it's revolutionizing manufacturing, creating jobs, and completely changing the game for local businesses. This isn't just for tech enthusiasts. This is for every single person who lives or works in an American city. Understanding this shift is critical to understanding the future of your property values, your job opportunities, and your personal safety. You will leave this video knowing more than 99% of the population about the single biggest technological leap our cities have ever made. This is a technological arms race, and the starting gun has already been fired. The cities that win this race won't just be smarter. They'll be safer, cleaner, more efficient, and economically dominant for the next 50 years. They will attract the best talent, the most innovative companies, and the highest paying jobs. The cities that fall behind will face a future of crumbling infrastructure, worsening traffic, and a slow bleed of economic opportunity. The stakes are astronomically high. We're talking about the reordering of economic power in the United States, all based on which cities have the vision to build this digital foundation. So, the question is no longer if this will happen, but where it is happening fastest. What do the leaders of these pioneering cities know that others don't? Why are they betting their political careers and billions in taxpayer dollars on weaving 5G and edge computing into the very fabric of their streets? What's the secret they've unlocked? Stick with me because we're about to break it all down. To understand the gamble, you first have to understand the game has completely changed. For the last 100 years, our cities have been built with concrete, steel, and well, dumb luck. A traffic light runs on a simple timer, completely oblivious to the mile-long backup just around the corner. A water main breaks, and we don't know about it until a street turns into a river. An emergency vehicle gets stuck in the same gridlock as everyone else. Our cities are a collection of isolated, non-communicating parts. They're like a body with no nervous system. The hand doesn't know what the foot is doing, and the brain only finds out there's a problem long after it's happened. The secret these cities have unlocked is the blueprint for that nervous system, and it has two critical, inseparable components: 5G and edge computing. Now I know what you're thinking. 5G? Isn't that just for faster movie downloads on my phone? That's what the cellular companies have been selling us, and frankly, it's the marketing crime of the century. Focusing on download speed is like describing a Formula One car by saying it has a nice cup holder. Completely misses the point. The true power of 5G isn't one superpower. It's three, and they work together to create something radically new. First, yes, there's the incredible speed. This is what engineers call enhanced mobile broadband. But don't think of it as just faster Netflix. Think of it as a fire hose of data where we used to have a garden hose. A modern city generates an unimaginable amount of information. We're talking thousands of high-definition security cameras, sensors on every bridge, car, and lamppost, all streaming data 24/7. 4G would simply choke on this. It couldn't handle the sheer volume. 5G can. It can drink from that fire hose without even flinching. But here's where it gets really interesting. The second superpower is ultra-low latency. This is the game changer. Latency is the delay, the lag time, between sending a signal and receiving a response. It's the digital reflex time. When you're video conferencing and there's that awkward pause where you talk over each other. That's latency. With 4G, that delay might be around 50 milliseconds. It's noticeable, but for a video call, it's not the end of the world. With 5G, we're talking about a latency of under 5 milliseconds, and theoretically as low as 1. That's faster than the human nervous system. It's the difference between a sluggish, delayed reaction and an instantaneous, lightning-fast reflex. This is the speed that allows a self-driving car to communicate with a traffic light and know it's changing before it changes. It's the speed that allows a surgeon in New York to control a robotic arm performing a delicate operation in Los Angeles in real time. It's the speed of now. The third superpower is massive connectivity. 5G can handle connecting an incredible density of devices, up to 1 million per square kilometer. 1 million. Think about that. Suddenly, it's not just our phones and laptops that are online. It's every single traffic light, every parking space, every public trash can, signaling when it's full, every light pole, adjusting its brightness based on foot traffic, every sensor in the sewer system monitoring for blockages, every smart electricity meter. It's the ability to create a city where literally everything is connected, constantly talking and sharing information. It's the creation of a true urban-scale nervous system, with countless nerve endings sensing everything at once. So we have the fire hose of data, the lightning-fast reflexes, and 1 trillion nerve endings. The system is built. But a nervous system is useless if the brain is too far away. And that brings us to the second and equally important piece of the puzzle: edge computing. For the past decade, we've lived in the era of the cloud. We send all our data to these massive centralized data centers owned by Amazon, Google, or Microsoft. These data centers are the brain. They're incredibly powerful, but they're often hundreds, even thousands of miles away. So even with 5G's incredible speed, if a self-driving car in Phoenix has to send its video feed to a data center in Virginia to ask, "Is that a child chasing a ball into the street?" and wait for the answer, well, by the time the answer gets back, it's too late. The latency, the travel time of that data, is still too high for decisions that need to be made in a fraction of a second. The lightning-fast reflex is wasted because the signal has to travel across the country and back. Edge computing solves this. It's the ultimate act of decentralization. Instead of one giant brain far away, edge computing places small, powerful mini-brains right where the action is happening. These edge nodes can be tiny servers tucked inside a traffic light pole, on top of a building, or in a small cabinet on the side of the road. They are located at the edge of the network, as close to the devices as possible. Now, that same self-driving car in Phoenix doesn't need to shout its question to Virginia. It sends its data via the superfast 5G network to the edge computer on that very street corner. The mini-brain analyzes the video feed right there, identifies the child, and sends the command "brake" back to the car. The whole process happens in milliseconds. The decision is made locally, instantly. 5G is the fast nervous system, but edge computing is the local spinal cord reflex that pulls your hand from a hot stove before your brain even has time to register the pain. This combination, 5G speed and connectivity, and edge computing's local processing power, is the magic formula. They are two halves of the same revolutionary whole. One without the other is a wasted opportunity. Together, they create a city that can sense, think, and act in real time. Let's make this real. Let's go back to that emergency vehicle stuck in traffic. In today's dumb city, it's a tragedy of inefficiency. An ambulance is dispatched. The driver relies on sirens and brute force, hoping other cars get out of the way. They approach an intersection and the light is red. They have to slow down, inch their way through, praying no one T-bones them. Every second lost is a tick of the clock for the person waiting for help. Now let's run the same scenario in a city built on 5G and edge computing. A 911 call comes in. The moment the ambulance is dispatched, the city's operating system kicks in. The 5G network knows the ambulance's exact location and its destination. The edge computers along the route immediately start communicating. They analyze real-time traffic data from thousands of connected cars and sensors. They don't just find the shortest route. They calculate the fastest possible route and begin to actively clear it. As the ambulance speeds down the street, a signal is sent ahead. The edge node at the next intersection receives the signal. It overrides the normal traffic light timer. A few seconds before the ambulance arrives, it turns the light green for the ambulance and red for all other directions. The intersection is clear before the vehicle is even visible. Once the ambulance passes, the edge node returns the light to its normal cycle. This creates a green wave, a seamless corridor of green lights. But it's even smarter than that. The system can send a direct, digital alert to the dashboard of every connected car on the ambulance's route, saying "emergency vehicle approaching from behind. Move to the right." It can even temporarily lower the volume of the car's stereo. The result? The ambulance never slows down. It never gets stuck. It arrives at its destination minutes faster. And in a cardiac arrest, a stroke, or a major trauma, those minutes aren't just minutes. They are the entire difference between life and death. This isn't science fiction. This is the tangible, life-saving reality that these cities are investing billions to build. They're not just upgrading their cell service. They are building a city with reflexes. A city that can react to an emergency with the speed and coordination of a living organism. They are betting that a city that can save the life of one citizen in an ambulance can also use that same core infrastructure to manage its power grid more efficiently, to clear snow more effectively, to manage public transit more intelligently, and maybe, just maybe, to stop crime before it even happens. Now, that last idea, stopping crime before it happens, that sounds like something straight out of a Philip K. Dick novel. It conjures images of a dystopian future, of pre-crime police kicking down doors based on a computer's whim. But the reality being built in cities like Las Vegas and Miami is far less science fiction and far more practical science. It's not about predicting a person's future intent. It's about understanding the present moment with such clarity and speed that you can react to a problem in its infancy, before it escalates into a full-blown crisis. Think about how public safety works right now. For the most part, it's a reactive system. A window smashes. A fight breaks out. A car alarm blares. Someone has to see it or hear it. Then they have to pick up a phone and dial 911. They have to explain who they are, where they are, what's happening. A dispatcher has to process this information, determine the priority, and then radio a unit. The officers in that unit have to receive the call, process it, and then travel to the location. Every single step in that chain introduces a delay of seconds, maybe minutes. But in an emergency, seconds are the currency of life and death. We've optimized this system as much as humanly possible, but it's still limited by the speed of human perception and communication. This is where the game changes. A smart city doesn't need to wait for a 911 call. Imagine a downtown business district at 2 in the morning. A network of high-definition cameras is watching, but not in the way you think. There isn't a security guard with tired eyes trying to monitor 100 screens at once. Instead, the video feed from each camera is being processed, not in some distant data center 1,000 miles away, but right there on a small, powerful computer, an edge node located inside the same pole the camera is mounted on. This is edge computing. It's about bringing the processing power to the source of the data. And the AI running on that edge node isn't looking for faces or trying to identify people. It's been trained to look for anomalies, for patterns that deviate from the norm. It knows that at 2 p.m., this street is full of people walking. But at 2 a.m., it's usually empty. So when it sees a person walking back and forth in front of the same jewelry store for 10 minutes, that's an anomaly. When it sees a car without its lights on slowly circling the block for the third time, that's an anomaly. When its connected microphone, an acoustic sensor, detects the specific frequency and pattern of shattering glass, it doesn't just register a loud noise. It identifies it as a potential break-in. The moment the AI detects one of these predefined anomalies, it acts. It doesn't need to send the entire high-resolution video stream back to a central server for analysis. That would take too long and consume too much bandwidth even with 5G. Instead, the edge node does the analysis locally in milliseconds. It then uses the ultra-low latency of the 5G network to send a tiny, high-priority data packet to the police dispatch center. This packet contains the alert type, potential break-in, the precise GPS location, and a 10-second video clip of the event. That alert can pop up on a dispatcher's screen and simultaneously on the tablet of the closest patrol car, all before the person who broke the window has even stepped inside the store. The officers are now responding not to a citizen's frantic call, but to a verified, computer-generated alert with video evidence. They're rolling up on a crime in progress, not arriving 10 minutes after the fact to take a report. This isn't pre-crime. It's instant crime response. It's shifting the entire paradigm from being reactive to being proactive. And this isn't a hypothetical. The city of Las Vegas has been a pioneer in this field. They've deployed networks of IoT sensors and cameras in public areas to do exactly this. They can detect crowds forming where they shouldn't, identify the sound of gunshots and triangulate their source within feet, and spot vehicles driving the wrong way down a one-way street, all in real time. This gives their first responders a level of situational awareness that was unthinkable just a decade ago. They're not just responding to incidents. They're anticipating the flow of events, managing resources more effectively, and ultimately, creating a safer environment. But let's take it a step further beyond policing. Consider one of the most dangerous jobs in America, firefighting. When a fire crew arrives at a burning building, their biggest enemy is the unknown. Where is the fire hottest? Is the roof about to collapse? Is anyone trapped inside, and if so, where? They have to make split-second, life or death decisions based on incomplete, often chaotic information. Now picture this. As the fire engine is racing to the scene, a pre-programmed drone is launched from a nearby fire station. It arrives over the building in seconds and begins streaming multiple feeds of data. A 4K visual feed, a high-resolution thermal feed. This massive amount of data can't be sent to the cloud for processing. It would take too long. Instead, it's beamed directly over 5G to an edge computing server right there on the fire engine. The AI on that server gets to work instantly. It fuses the video and thermal data, cross-references it with the building's digital blueprints, and in less than a second, generates a complete 3D augmented reality model of the building. This model shows the firefighters exactly where the structural weak points are, where the fire is most intense, and highlights the thermal signatures of people who might be trapped inside. This entire 3D map is then streamed, again over the low-latency 5G network, directly to a heads-up display inside each firefighter's helmet. Before they even step out of the truck, they can see through the walls. They know which doors to avoid, which floors are on the verge of collapse, and the most direct path to any potential victims. The 5G connection provides the speed to get the data from the drone to the truck, the edge computer on the truck provides the instant analysis, and the 5G connection again provides the speed to get that life-saving intelligence to the crew. This isn't about replacing the skill and bravery of a firefighter. It's about augmenting it. It's about giving them superpowers. The ability to see the invisible, to know the unknowable, and to walk into a burning building with a god's-eye view of the battlefield. The difference this makes is measured not in dollars saved, but in lives. The lives of citizens and the lives of the first responders who put everything on the line for us. This is why the smartest cities are betting on this technology. It's not just about faster internet on your phone. It's about building a central nervous system for the city itself. A system that can sense, process, and react to events in real time. A system that keeps its citizens safe, not just by responding to emergencies faster, but by creating an environment where many of those emergencies can be mitigated before they ever spiral out of control. But saving lives in an emergency is only half the battle. What if this same technology could prevent the accidents that cause those emergencies in the first place? What if it could eliminate traffic jams forever? This isn't science fiction. It's the engineering problem that cities like Las Vegas, Columbus, and Peachtree Corners are racing to solve right now. The answer lies in transforming our streets from a chaotic free-for-all into a perfectly synchronized, intelligent network. To do that, you have to understand the fundamental flaw in our current system. Our roads are, for the lack of a better word, stupid. The traffic light at a deserted intersection that turns red at 3 in the morning, forcing you to stop for absolutely no reason? That's a stupid system. The highway that grinds to a halt every day at 5 p.m. because of a single merge lane 2 miles ahead? That's a stupid system. It's a system built on timers, simple magnetic loop sensors buried in asphalt, and most critically, the flawed and slow-to-react brains of human drivers. This stupidity isn't just an annoyance. It's a multi-billion-dollar tax on our economy. The average American driver loses nearly 100 hours and over $1,000 a year just sitting in traffic. We burn billions of gallons of fuel going nowhere, pumping countless tons of CO2 into the atmosphere. And we accept the tragic reality that over 40,000 people will die on these roads in the US every year, largely due to human error. We've simply accepted this chaos as the cost of mobility. But it doesn't have to be this way. Imagine a city where every single vehicle, traffic light, crosswalk, and road sign is in constant communication. A city that operates less like a demolition derby and more like a beautifully orchestrated ballet. This is the promise of a technology called CV2X, or Cellular Vehicle to Everything. It's the universal language that will allow our cities to think. And the two technologies that make this language fluent are 5G and edge computing. Here's why. Let's say you're in a self-driving car of the future. As you approach an intersection, your car's dozens of sensors, its LiDAR, radar, and cameras, are painting a perfect 360-degree picture of its immediate surroundings. But that's not enough. Your car can't see the delivery truck that's about to run a red light around the corner. It can't see the child chasing a ball between 2 parked cars a block ahead. And it can't know that an ambulance needs to come through this exact intersection in the next 45 seconds. But the city knows. With 5G and edge computing, the intersection itself becomes a localized brain. This edge node, a small but powerful data center, is talking to everyone and everything in a multi-block radius. It's receiving a fire hose of data from your car, the delivery truck, the pedestrian smartphone, the ambulance, and every other vehicle nearby. The key here is where this data gets processed. In our current cloud-based world, that information might have to travel hundreds of miles to a massive data center, get processed, and then sent back. Even with a fast connection, that round trip takes time. In computing, we call this latency. In traffic, we call it a fatal collision. A self-driving car making a decision at 60 miles per hour cannot afford a delay of even 50 milliseconds. The laws of physics are unforgiving. That's where the edge comes in. By processing all that critical data right there, at the edge of the network on that street corner, the decision time becomes virtually instantaneous. The latency drops to near zero. So let's replay that scenario. You're approaching the intersection. Your car isn't just blindly following a GPS route. It's in a constant, high-speed conversation with the intersection's edge node. The edge node sees the reckless delivery truck, sees the child, it sees the approaching ambulance, and it begins to orchestrate. It sends a microscopic command to your car, not to slam on the brakes, but to decelerate from 40 miles per hour to 38.7. Tells the car behind you to do the same. It tells the oncoming traffic to slow to 39.2. At the same time, it turns the delivery truck's light red and flashes a warning directly onto its dashboard display. It sends an alert to the child's parent's phone and pings a warning to the other autonomous cars that a pedestrian is near the road. Then it turns all lights red to create a clear, unimpeded path for the ambulance, which glides through the intersection without ever slowing down. A moment later, the flow of traffic resumes. But it's not the same as before. The edge node adjusts the timing of the lights in a 4-block radius to smooth out the small traffic bubble created by the ambulance. You don't experience a traffic jam. In fact, you experience nothing at all. You just glide through the intersection, which turned green at the precise moment you arrived. You never stopped. You never even tapped your brakes. There was no chaos, no blaring horns, no near miss. There was only a silent, seamless, and perfectly safe flow. Now multiply that single event by millions of cars, at thousands of intersections 24 hours a day. What you get is the end of the traffic jam as we know it. Intersections cease to be bottlenecks, and instead become perfectly efficient routing points. Highways can enable a phenomenon called platooning, where autonomous trucks connected by 5G can drive inches from each other in a long convoy. The lead truck breaks the wind and every truck behind it saves a massive amount of fuel by drafting, almost like cyclists in a peloton. The entire logistics network of the country becomes faster, cheaper, and cleaner. This isn't just about cars talking to infrastructure or V2I. It's about everything talking to everything. It's vehicle to vehicle or V2V, where a car hitting a patch of black ice can instantly warn every car behind it before they even reach the same spot. It's vehicle to pedestrian or V2P, where a cyclist's smartphone can broadcast their position, ensuring a car's autonomous system sees them even when they're in a blind spot. It's a comprehensive, digital nervous system for the city. The benefits are staggering. The U.S. Department of Transportation estimates that this level of connectivity could eliminate or mitigate the severity of up to 80% of crashes involving non-impaired drivers. Let that sink in. That's not a 10 or 20% improvement. It's a quantum leap in public safety that could save over 30,000 lives in the United States every single year. It's about reclaiming those 100 hours we each lose to traffic. That's 2.5 work weeks of your life every single year that you get back. It's about the economic boom from a hyper-efficient supply chain, where goods move without delay. And it's about the profound environmental impact of slashing emissions from millions of idling and inefficiently driven vehicles. This is why the smartest cities aren't just thinking about laying more asphalt or building more bridges. They're betting on data. They're investing in the digital infrastructure, the 5G towers and the edge computing nodes, that will become more critical to a city's health and prosperity than any physical road. They are building a real-time digital replica of their entire urban environment, a so-called digital twin. And with this living, breathing model of the city, managing traffic is just the beginning. The real revolution starts when you realize what else you can do with a city that can finally think. A thinking city doesn't just optimize your commute, it saves your life. To understand how, let's leave the world of green lights and traffic flows and enter a scenario where every single second counts. Picture a dense, downtown intersection during rush hour. A driver, distracted for just a moment, runs a red light. The screech of tires is followed by the sickening crunch of metal. It's a multi-car pileup. In the city of yesterday, what happens next is a chaotic analog ballet of delayed reactions. Someone, a bystander in shock, fumbles for their phone and dials 911. They try to describe the location, the number of cars, the severity of the injuries, but their information is panicked and incomplete. A dispatcher miles away tries to piece together the story, triangulate the location, and send out the cavalry. First responders get the call and race towards the scene, but they're driving into an information vacuum. They don't know the exact nature of the injuries, the number of people trapped, or if one of the vehicles is an electric car with a volatile lithium-ion battery on the verge of thermal runaway. And worse, they're fighting the very gridlock their city created. Sirens blaring as they get stuck in the same traffic jam as everyone else. Every delay, every moment of confusion, every wrong turn, is measured in the currency of human life. Now let's rewind and play that same scene in a city powered by 5G and edge computing. The very instant the first vehicle collides, the city already knows. It doesn't need a human to make a call. A smart camera on a nearby traffic pole, or perhaps the LiDAR sensors from a passing autonomous vehicle, captures the event. This isn't just a dumb recording. The high-definition video data, terabytes per minute, doesn't get sent on a long journey to a distant cloud server for analysis. That would take too long. Instead, it's processed right there within a few hundred feet inside a small, unassuming server box at the base of the 5G tower, the edge node. In less time than it takes a human eye to blink, an AI on that edge node analyzes the footage. It identifies the make and model of the cars involved, cross-referencing them with the vehicle database to flag the EV with the high-voltage battery. It counts the number of occupants using thermal imaging. It detects the slick sheen of leaking gasoline on the pavement. It pinpoints the exact GPS coordinates of the wreckage. This isn't just data, it's situational intelligence. And it's instantly fed into the city's digital twin. The Twin doesn't just dispatch a generic ambulance and fire truck. It dispatches the specific units needed. It sends the fire engine with the specialized foam for chemical fires and the paramedics with advanced trauma kits. And it doesn't just send them, clears a path. Imagine you're driving a few blocks away. Your navigation app suddenly reroutes you. The traffic light ahead of you and the one after that and the one after that all turn red, holding cross traffic. But for the approaching ambulance, a perfect corridor of green lights opens up. A seamless path carved through the chaos in real time. The city is literally bending its own rules to save a life. As the first responders are en route, they aren't flying blind anymore. Their in-vehicle tablets are streaming a live 3D model of the crash scene, generated by the Edge AI. Paramedics are already seeing vital signs, heart rate, blood oxygen, transmitted from the smartwatches of the crash victims. Firefighters are wearing augmented reality visors, and as they arrive, a digital overlay highlights the high-voltage cables they need to cut in the electric vehicle, showing them exactly where to avoid a lethal shock. They see a structural diagram of the car, revealing the safest points to cut with the jaws of life to extract a trapped victim. This isn't a futuristic fantasy. This is the direct, tangible result of combining near-zero latency with immense local processing power. The 5G network provides the massive, reliable pipeline for all this data to flow: the video, the sensor readings, the AR overlays. But it's the edge computing that provides the brain. It makes the decisions on the spot, eliminating the deadly delay of sending information back and forth to a centralized cloud. The city is no longer just a passive backdrop for an emergency. It's an active participant in the response. Now scale this concept up. An emergency isn't always a single car crash. What about a citywide disaster? An earthquake? In the old model, the first hours are pure chaos. Communication lines are down. Emergency services have no idea which areas are hit the hardest. They rely on scattered reports, trying to build a picture of the damage brick by painful brick. In a smart city, the moment the ground stops shaking, thousands of sensors, in bridges, on buildings, in gas lines, on water mains, are reporting their status. The Edge network, designed with redundancies to survive such events, is collecting and processing this flood of information. Drones are automatically launched, their 4K cameras streaming live video over 5G. The Edge AI analyzes this data in real time, not just seeing a collapsed building, but identifying heat signatures of survivors trapped in the rubble. Within minutes, the city's digital twin presents emergency managers with a complete, holistic view of the disaster. They see a live map of every gas leak, every downed power line, every impassable road, every structurally compromised bridge. They can triage the entire city instantly, directing their limited resources with surgical precision to where they are needed most. They are no longer reacting. They are commanding the response with near omniscience. This same nervous system that saves lives during a catastrophe can also work quietly, invisibly, every single day to prevent disasters from ever happening in the first place. Think about the aging infrastructure that underpins every American city. The crumbling bridges, the century-old water mains, the strained electrical grids. We currently manage them with a philosophy of inspect and pray. We send a crew out once a year to look at a bridge, or we simply wait for a pipe to burst and flood a city block before we fix it. It's incredibly inefficient and dangerously reactive. Now embed thousands of tiny, inexpensive IoT sensors throughout that infrastructure. Put stress gauges on a bridge's steel supports. Place acoustic sensors on water mains to listen for the faint hiss of a pinhole leak. Fly drones with thermal cameras along power lines to spot transformers that are overheating. All this data is constantly being streamed over 5G to the local edge nodes. An AI running 24/7 analyzes the subtle shifts in vibration on a bridge, patterns that a human inspector would never notice. It learns the bridge's normal heartbeat, and one day it detects a new, anomalous frequency. It runs a simulation in the digital twin and predicts that this specific vibration, if left unchecked, has a 78% probability of leading to a microfracture in a critical support joint within the next 90 days. The system doesn't just send an alert, it automatically generates a work order for a maintenance crew, detailing the exact location of the potential fault. It cross-references their schedule, orders the required materials, and even pre-plots a traffic diversion plan for the day of the repair. A potential disaster that could have cost millions of dollars and endangered lives is averted by a preventative fix that costs a fraction of the price. The city is no longer just healing its wounds, it's developing an immune system. This is the true promise of the thinking city. It's a fundamental transformation from a passive collection of concrete and steel into a dynamic, responsive organism. A city with a central nervous system that can sense, analyze, and react in real time. The efficiency is breathtaking, the potential for public safety is revolutionary. But this new power, this ability for a city to see and know everything that happens within its borders, raises a monumental question. In a city that is always watching for our own good, what happens to our privacy? This is the fundamental tension of the 21st century city. The paradox of progress. We want the safety, the efficiency, the convenience. But we are deeply and rightly suspicious of the tools required to achieve it. The specter of Big Brother, of a surveillance state built not with malice but with the best of intentions, looms large. For decades, the trade-off seemed unavoidable. To get more security, you had to give up more privacy. To make the system smarter, you had to feed it more of your personal data. That was the deal. Your data was the price of admission. But what if that deal is about to be radically renegotiated? What if the very technology driving this intelligent revolution, 5G and edge computing, also holds the key to preserving our privacy in a way that was never before possible? To understand this, we have to look at how data has been handled until now. Think of the traditional model, the one built on the cloud. A sensor, say a smart camera on a street corner, captures data. That raw data, a high-definition video stream, is then beamed across the internet to a massive centralized data center hundreds, or even thousands of miles away. It's in that distant server farm where the magic happens. Powerful algorithms analyze the video, identify patterns, and send back an insight. This model has a colossal, glaring vulnerability. It creates what security experts call a honeypot, a single centralized database containing a city's worth of raw, sensitive, personally identifiable information. It's an irresistibly tempting target for hackers. A breach there isn't just a leak, it's a catastrophe. Every face, every license plate, every person's pattern of life, all stored in one place, ready to be stolen. This is the model that makes us nervous, and it should. Edge computing flips this model on its head. It says, why move the data to the algorithm when you can move the algorithm to the data? Instead of sending that raw video stream on a cross-country journey, the processing happens right there, at the source. A small but powerful computer, an edge node sitting right on that same street corner, analyzes the video locally. This simple shift has profound implications for privacy. First, it enables what's called anonymization at the source. The edge node can be programmed to look for specific events without ever storing or transmitting the data that identifies you. For example, its job might be to count the number of cars that pass an intersection to optimize traffic light timing. The edge computer sees your car, identifies it as a vehicle, adds one to the count, and then immediately discards the video of your specific car and your license plate. The only thing that gets sent back to the central system is the final tally. 127 cars passed this hour. The system gets the insight it needs, but your personal information never even begins the journey to a central server. It evaporates at the edge. Consider a more critical scenario: detecting a traffic accident. The old way would be to stream video from every intersection 24/7 to a central cloud, hoping an algorithm or human operator spots a crash. This means a city is needlessly storing countless hours of footage of routine everyday life. The edge computing way is different. The local edge node is constantly watching, but it's not recording in the traditional sense. It's running an algorithm trained to recognize the visual and audio signatures of a crash: the sudden stop, the sound of impact, the sight of debris. For 99.99% of the time, it sees nothing of interest and the data is overwritten in seconds. But the moment it detects a collision, it springs into action. It can instantly save a short clip of the event itself, say the 10 seconds before and after the impact, and immediately send an alert to emergency services with that small, relevant piece of data. It can simultaneously alert nearby traffic signals to turn red to prevent further collisions. The system provides a faster, more effective response while drastically minimizing the amount of personal data it collects and stores. It's the difference between a security guard who watches and remembers every single person who walks down a hall, and a guard who only notices when someone tries to break down a door. This brings us to one of the most powerful privacy-preserving techniques enabled by edge computing: federated learning. Sounds complex, but the idea is remarkably simple and elegant. Imagine a city wants to improve its traffic prediction model. In the old cloud model, it would have to collect traffic data from thousands of sensors all over the city, pull it all together in one place, and then train its AI on that massive combined dataset. Your travel patterns, my travel patterns, everyone's travel patterns, all mixed together. Federated learning does the opposite. The central server starts by sending a base version of the AI model out to all the individual edge nodes. Each node then uses its own local data, the traffic it sees at its specific intersection, to train and improve that model just a little bit. It learns from its own unique environment. Then, instead of sending the raw data back, the edge node sends only its small, anonymous improvements back to the central server. It essentially says, based on what I saw, here's a mathematical tweak to make the model slightly better. The central server then aggregates these small, anonymous tweaks from thousands of nodes to create a new, much smarter master model. The master AI gets incredibly intelligent, learning from the collective experience of the entire city, but without ever seeing the raw private data from a single location. It's a system that learns without spying. Of course, this is not a technological silver bullet that magically solves every privacy concern. The technology is a tool, and its impact depends entirely on the policies and people wielding it. Who decides what the edge node is allowed to analyze? Who writes the code that ensures data is truly anonymized? What prevents function creep? Where a system designed for traffic counting is later repurposed for surveillance? These are not engineering questions. They are questions of governance, ethics, and law. Cities at the forefront of this movement like Portland, Oregon, and Seattle, Washington, are grappling with these questions head-on. They are establishing digital rights principles and surveillance ordinances, creating public oversight committees, and demanding transparency from their technology vendors. They understand that building a smart city isn't just about deploying sensors and servers, it's about building trust. The promise of edge computing is that it provides a powerful architectural foundation for privacy by design. It makes it possible to build systems that are both intelligent and respectful of individual liberty. It shifts the balance of power, allowing a city to gain valuable insights about its systems, its traffic, its energy grid, its infrastructure, without needing to harvest invasive information about its citizens. This technological framework, this new digital contract, is absolutely essential, because the scale of what these cities are trying to build goes far beyond a few smart traffic lights. They are laying the groundwork for a true citywide operating system, a digital nervous system that will connect every facet of urban life. And the physical and financial challenge of building that nervous system is a story in itself. It's a construction project on a scale that rivals the interstate highway system, but instead of asphalt and concrete, the raw materials are fiber optic cable, silicon, and political will. Building a city's digital nervous system is a brutal, expensive, and logistically nightmarish undertaking. It's a war fought not with soldiers, but with civil engineers, zoning permits, and city council budget meetings. The first enemy you have to fight is physics itself. The magic of 5G, that lightning-fast, zero-lag connection we've been promised, comes from using much higher frequency radio waves, specifically something called millimeter wave or wave. These waves can carry a mind-boggling amount of data, but they have an Achilles heel. They're terrible at traveling long distances, and they can't penetrate obstacles like buildings or even heavy foliage. A 4G cell tower can cover several square miles. A high-frequency 5G wave node? Maybe a few city blocks if you're lucky. To cover an entire city with this kind of connectivity, you can't just upgrade a few hundred existing cell towers. You need to blanket the urban landscape with tens of thousands of what are called small cells. The name is a bit of a misnomer. They're not tiny invisible specks. They're often the size of a large backpack or a pizza box, and each one needs three critical things: a place to hang, a power source, and a fiber optic connection back to the main network. Now imagine you're a city planner. Where do you put them all? The obvious answer is on existing infrastructure. Lampposts, traffic signals, the sides of buildings. But every single one of those placements is a negotiation. Does the lamppost have enough power? Can we run a new fiber line to it without digging up a historic cobblestone street? Does the owner of that building want this box attached to their facade? Suddenly, the city's entire physical layout becomes a massive, three-dimensional puzzle. This is where public pushback often begins. People don't necessarily want a cellular node humming away outside their bedroom window. Aesthetic concerns are real. In historic districts, a sleek modern 5G node can stick out like a sore thumb. This leads to endless rounds of public hearings, design reviews, and permitting battles that can slow deployment to a crawl. It's the digital age version of not in my backyard, a phenomenon some have dubbed not in my front yard, or NIMFY. And even if you solve the placement and permit problem, you still have to deal with the back end. Each of those thousands of small cells is like a super fast on-ramp to the information superhighway. But you still need the highway itself. That highway is made of fiber optic cable. This means cities and carriers have to embark on a massive, and I mean massive, trenching operation, digging up streets to lay down thousands of miles of new fiber. It's disruptive, it's slow, and it is incredibly expensive. We're talking millions of dollars per square mile. The wireless future, it turns out, is built on a foundation of very expensive, very physical wires buried under our feet. This brings us to the biggest hurdle of all: the astronomical cost. Who pays for this multi-billion-dollar upgrade for a single city? The answer is a complex dance between the public and private sectors. This is where the model of the public-private partnership, or P3, becomes the star of the show. Here's how it typically works. The city, which owns the public right-of-way, the lampposts, the traffic signals, the sewer conduits where fiber can be run, doesn't have the billions in capital or the technical expertise to build a 5G network. The private telecom giants, companies like Verizon, AT&T, and T-Mobile, have the money and the know-how, but they don't own the city's infrastructure. They can't just start bolting equipment onto city property. So they strike a deal. The city provides access to its assets at a low cost, or even for free. They streamline the permitting process, cutting through the red tape that would normally bog down a project like this. In exchange, the private company agrees to invest the billions required to build out the network of small cells and fiber. The company makes its money back by selling 5G service to residents and businesses. The city, in return, gets more than just better cell service for its citizens. They often negotiate for a dedicated slice of that network for their own use. This is the government lane on the data highway. They can use it for their smart traffic lights, for connecting police cars and fire trucks, for public transit data, and for sensors monitoring air quality and water systems, all without paying monthly service fees. Some cities even negotiate for a share of the revenue the telecom company generates. Las Vegas is a prime example. The city partnered with NTT to build out a private 5G and edge network in its downtown innovation district. The city gets a powerful, secure network to run its own smart city applications, testing everything from autonomous vehicles to predictive crime analytics. NTT, in turn, gets a real-world showcase for its technology, which it can then sell to other cities and private enterprises around the world. It's a symbiotic relationship. But this model isn't a silver bullet. It raises a deeply important and difficult question of equity. Private companies are, by their very nature, driven by profit. They are going to build these expensive networks first in the areas where they can get the best return on their investment: dense, high-income commercial districts and affluent residential neighborhoods. What about lower-income communities? What about the less dense parts of the city? There's a very real danger that this 5G and edge revolution could create a city of digital haves and have-nots, exacerbating the already existing digital divide. We could end up with smart deserts where communities are left behind, unable to access the economic, educational, and civic benefits that this new infrastructure promises. The smartest cities recognize this danger. They are trying to write equity requirements directly into their P3 agreements, mandating that carriers build out their networks across all neighborhoods, not just the most profitable ones. They're using their leverage, the control of those precious lampposts and rights-of-way, to ensure the benefits of the smart city are shared by everyone. But it's a constant battle between public good and private profit. Ultimately, for a mayor or a city manager, the decision to bet on 5G and edge computing is a monumental gamble. They are facilitating a construction project that will cost billions of dollars, disrupt traffic, and anger some residents, all for a technological payoff that might not be fully realized for another decade. They have to justify this enormous undertaking by calculating the long-term return on investment. How do you put a dollar value on a 10% reduction in traffic congestion? What's the economic benefit of an emergency response system that's 2 minutes faster? How much is it worth to save a life because a smart ambulance could transmit real-time patient data to the hospital? These are the tough, abstract calculations that city leaders have to make. They are weighing the concrete, upfront cost in dollars and political capital against a future of efficiency, safety, and economic growth that is still largely theoretical. But even if a city can conquer the physics and the finances, they face an even more daunting challenge: what to do with the tsunami of data this new nervous system will create. Because with great data comes great responsibility and great risk. This flood of information is unlike anything humanity has ever dealt with before. To call it a tsunami is an understatement. Think about it. A single autonomous car is projected to generate over 4 terabytes of data every single day. 4 terabytes? That's the equivalent of over 1,000 high-definition movies. Now multiply that by a fleet of 10,000 autonomous taxis, buses, and delivery drones operating in just one city. Then add the data from every traffic light, every parking meter, every air quality sensor, every smart water pipe, every piece of public infrastructure, all chattering away 24/7. We're not talking about terabytes or even petabytes anymore. We're talking about exabytes, zettabytes, numbers so large they lose all meaning. The digital exhaust of a single smart city could soon dwarf the entire amount of data created by all of humanity just a decade ago. And this data is the ultimate double-edged sword. On one side, it holds the promise of a perfectly optimized urban utopia. Imagine a city that can predict a traffic jam before it happens and reroute cars preemptively. A city that knows a water main is about to burst and dispatches a crew before it floods a street. A city that can analyze pollution patterns in real time and alert citizens with asthma to stay indoors. This data can be used to create public health models of unprecedented accuracy, to distribute emergency services with surgical precision, to build an energy grid so efficient it practically eliminates waste. The city becomes a living organism, sensing, thinking, and responding to the needs of its citizens in real time. But then there's the other side of the sword, the side that cuts deep into our privacy and security. Who owns this data? Is it the city itself, a public trust? Or is it the private telecommunications giant that built and operates the 5G network? Or the tech company that designed the sensor and the software that runs on the edge? When you step out your front door, your movements could be tracked not by 1 or 2 CCTV cameras, but by 1,000 different data points. The lamppost that registers your phone's Bluetooth signal, the bus stop that scans the crowd for capacity, the autonomous car that maps your face as a potential pedestrian. Every trip you take, every store you visit, every park you sit in, it all becomes data. And data can be aggregated. It can be analyzed. Patterns can be found. It can reveal not just where you go, but who you associate with, what your habits are, what your daily rhythm is. It can infer your political leanings, your religious beliefs, your health status. This isn't a far-off dystopian fantasy. The controversy around Sidewalk Labs in Toronto, where a Google sister company planned to build a neighborhood from the internet up, ground to a halt precisely because of these unanswered questions about data ownership and governance. Citizens pushed back, fearing the creation of a corporate-run surveillance state masquerading as a futuristic utopia. The danger isn't necessarily malicious intent. It's the slow, creeping erosion of anonymity. What happens when this data is used to make decisions about you? Could your health insurance premiums go up because city sensors note your phone's location at a fast food restaurant 3 times a week? Could you be denied a loan because your pattern of movement resembles that of others who have defaulted? Without incredibly strong, transparent, and publicly debated regulations, the smart city risks becoming the ultimate tool for social engineering and control, a digital panopticon from which there is no escape. And if the privacy risks are chilling, the security risks are catastrophic. Every single one of those millions of sensors on every streetlight, in every sewer, on every vehicle is a potential door for a hacker. In cybersecurity, this is called the attack surface. A traditional city might have an attack surface of a few hundred servers in a city hall basement. A smart city has an attack surface of millions, even billions, of interconnected devices scattered across hundreds of square miles. It's a hacker's paradise. And the stakes are no longer just about stealing credit card numbers or embarrassing emails. The stakes are the physical operation of the city itself. Imagine a hacker gaining control of the traffic light grid and turning every intersection in downtown Manhattan green at the height of rush hour. The result would be instantaneous gridlock chaos and countless accidents. Imagine a ransomware attack not on a hospital, but on the entire city's water supply. A message flashes across every screen in the mayor's office. Pay us $1 billion in crypto, or we shut off the water. Imagine a terrorist organization hijacking the city's fleet of autonomous buses, locking the doors and using them as weapons. This is the new frontier of warfare and terrorism. It won't be fought with bombs and bullets, but with bits and bytes. The critical infrastructure of our daily lives, the power we use, the water we drink, the transportation we rely on, will become the battleground. And this is precisely where edge computing re-enters the story, not just as a tool for speed, but as a critical line of defense. By processing data locally, at the edge, sensitive information doesn't have to be sent across the network to a centralized cloud. An edge-enabled security camera, for example, could identify a lost child in a crowd, Send a secure alert with the child's location directly to the parents and police, and then immediately delete the raw video footage of everyone else. The personal data of thousands of innocent bystanders never leaves the device. It's never stored, never transmitted, and is therefore much harder to steal. This principle of data minimization is a cornerstone of building a more private smart city. Decentralization also makes the system more resilient. In a centralized model, a successful attack on the city's main data center could cripple the entire network. But in an edge computing model, the city is more like a starfish than a spider. Hacking one smart traffic light doesn't take down the whole traffic grid. The blast radius is contained. The system can gracefully degrade, with other nodes taking over, rather than suffering a catastrophic single-point failure. But the edge creates its own security paradox. While it helps solve one problem, it creates another. You now have to manage and secure tens of thousands of mini-computers hanging off of lampposts and buried under sidewalks. How do you ensure every single one is updated with the latest security patches? Physical security becomes a nightmare. What's to stop someone from just climbing a pole, prying open a box, and physically tampering with an edge node? The logistical challenge of maintaining this distributed infrastructure is immense. This leads to the final and perhaps most difficult hurdle: the governance gap. The technology is moving at light speed, but our laws, regulations, and ethical frameworks are stuck in the analog age. We are building this complex, citywide nervous system with no clear agreement on the rules. Who is liable when an AI-driven traffic system makes a mistake that leads to a fatal accident? The city? The software developer? The network provider? The car manufacturer? Right now, nobody knows. We are operating in a legal and ethical gray zone. Before we blanket our cities with sensors, we need to have a foundational public conversation. We need to establish a digital bill of rights for citizens. What data is permissible to collect? How must it be stored and protected? Who gets to access it and under what circumstances? What level of transparency and public oversight is required? These are not technical questions. They are fundamentally human and political questions about the kind of society we want to live in. We have to design the ethics before we design the system. Because once the system is built, its values and biases will be locked in for decades. The risks, from privacy to security to ethics, are monumental. The challenges seem almost insurmountable. It's a tightrope walk over a chasm, with a utopian future on one side and a dystopian nightmare on the other. So why are the smartest people in the country still sprinting towards it? Because a handful of pioneering cities believe they've found the key. A new model for building the smart city, without selling its soul. This new model flips the entire smart city concept on its head. Instead of a city paying a tech giant for a prepackaged proprietary system, the city itself builds the foundational layer. It lays the digital railroad tracks, and then decides who gets to run trains on them and under what rules. This isn't a theoretical fantasy. It's already happening, and the blueprint was written over a decade ago in a place you might not expect: Chattanooga, Tennessee. Back in the 2000s, Chattanooga was a city struggling to escape its industrial past. It needed a new engine for growth. While other cities were chasing factories, Chattanooga's Public Utility, EPB, made a radical bet. They decided to build their own citywide fiber optic network, offering internet speeds that were, at the time, science fiction. They offered 1 gigabit per second service to every single home and business in their 600 square mile area. In 2010, for context, the average US internet speed back then was about 5 megabits per second. Chattanooga was 200 times faster. The big telecom companies laughed. They lobbied against it, calling it a waste of taxpayer money. But Chattanooga did it anyway. And the result? They didn't just get faster Netflix. They created an economic miracle. They became known as Gig City. Tech startups flocked there. Volkswagen built its North American manufacturing plant nearby. Drawn by the high-tech infrastructure, the city generated thousands of new jobs and billions in economic impact. But here's the crucial part of the story we often miss. Because the network was publicly owned, Chattanooga controlled its own digital destiny. They ensured equal access for all neighborhoods, effectively erasing the digital divide within their city limits. The profits from the network didn't go to a corporate headquarters in Dallas or New York. They were reinvested back into the local community. Chattanooga laid the physical fiber, the digital bedrock. Now, the smartest cities are taking that model and applying it to the next generation of wireless technology, 5G and the edge. They are building what's known as a neutral host network. Think of it like this. Right now, if Verizon, AT&T, and T-Mobile all want to offer 5G service in a downtown area, they each have to go through the incredibly expensive and messy process of installing their own antennas, their own fiber optic cables, their own power supplies on lampposts and buildings. It's redundant, inefficient, and ugly. A neutral host model changes the game. A single entity, often the city itself or a trusted public-private partner, builds one high-capacity 5G infrastructure. Just one set of fiber, one set of antennas. Then Verizon, AT&T, and T-Mobile can all lease access to that single shared network. Suddenly, the city is no longer a passive bystander begging for better service. It's the landlord of the digital real estate. And as the landlord, it gets to set the terms. This is the absolute key to avoiding the dystopian surveillance trap. Take Las Vegas. The city has built America's largest private 5G network. In its downtown innovation district, they've created a sandbox for the future. They partnered with a company to deploy a neutral host network that they, the city, ultimately control. They are using it to test autonomous shuttles, smart lighting that dims when no one is around to save energy, and gunshot detection sensors that can instantly pinpoint a shooter's location for first responders. But here's the game changer. The data from those sensors, from those cameras, from those shuttles, doesn't get beamed to an Amazon or Google server farm 1,000 miles away. Stays in Las Vegas. It's processed right there, on local edge computing nodes that are part of the city-controlled network. This means the city can enforce its own strict privacy and security rules. They can guarantee that video footage from a public intersection is only used for traffic management, not sold to advertisers or stored indefinitely. They can ensure that data about public utility usage is anonymized and protected. They have technological sovereignty. This is the profound promise of combining a neutral host network with 5G edge computing. The 5G provides the massive bandwidth and ultra-low latency. The neutral host model gives the city control over the infrastructure, and the edge computing keeps sensitive public data local, secure, and under democratic oversight. It's a closed loop, designed for public good, not for corporate data extraction. This model also creates a powerful engine for innovation. By providing a cheap, accessible, and powerful 5G edge network, cities like Las Vegas or Tucson, Arizona, are rolling out the red carpet for the next generation of tech entrepreneurs. A startup with a brilliant idea for, say, an augmented reality navigation app for the visually impaired doesn't need to negotiate a complex deal with a massive telecom company. They can work directly with the city, gaining access to the low-latency network they need to make their product work. It democratizes innovation. The city becomes a platform, a launchpad for new ideas that can solve real-world civic problems. And the economic benefits are staggering. The city can generate revenue by leasing access to its network, creating a new funding stream for public services. It saves money for the mobile carriers, who can expand their 5G footprint faster and cheaper. And it makes the city a magnet for investment and talent. It's a win-win-win. So why isn't every city doing this? Because it is incredibly difficult. It requires immense political will to stand up to the powerful telecom lobbies who have spent decades ensuring they are the only game in town. It requires massive upfront capital investment to lay the fiber and deploy the 5G nodes. And it requires a sophisticated level of technical expertise that many city governments simply don't have. This is the bet. The smartest cities are betting that the long-term rewards of digital sovereignty, economic vitality, and public trust are worth the monumental short-term fight. They are choosing to build their own digital future, brick by brick, fiber by fiber, instead of renting a prefabricated one from Silicon Valley. They are rejecting the false choice between a dumb city stuck in the past and a smart city that spies on its citizens. They are pioneering a third way. A city that is intelligent, responsive, and efficient, but also private, equitable, and accountable to the people who live there. This new model, this fusion of public ownership and cutting-edge technology, feels like the perfect answer. It harnesses the power of 5G and edge computing to serve the public, not exploit it. It's a blueprint for building a better, more connected future without sacrificing our privacy or our freedom. But even with the perfect blueprint, the most brilliant architects, and unlimited funding, a structure can still collapse. Because there is one final massive hurdle that could bring this entire vision crashing down. It isn't a technological problem, and it isn't a financial one. It's a human one. And it forces us to ask whether we're truly ready for the power and the immense responsibility that comes with it. This human problem boils down to one simple, terrifying word: trust. Because the city of the future, the one powered by 5G and edge computing, is built on a foundation of data. Your data, my data, the data of every single person, vehicle, and object moving within its limits. And the sheer scale of this data collection is something we've never grappled with before. Think about it. In this new urban landscape, you don't just have a digital footprint. You have a digital shadow that follows you in real time. The network knows the route you take to work, the coffee shop you stop at, the park bench you sit on. It knows how fast you drive, when you jaywalk, what public services you use. This isn't data you've chosen to share by posting on social media. This is data that is passively harvested from you, simply by existing in public space. The promise is that this data will be used for good, to dispatch an ambulance to your exact location before you can even make the call, to adjust traffic lights to ease your commute, to create a safer, cleaner, more responsive world. But without ironclad protections, that same system becomes the most powerful tool of surveillance ever conceived. A city that can see everything can also control everything. It could be used to issue automated fines for minor infractions, to monitor attendance at political protests, or to create behavioral scores that influence your access to services. The line between a smart city and a surveillance state is terrifyingly thin, and it's paved with good intentions. But the trust issue goes even deeper. It forces us to confront the ugly truth of inequality. Who exactly is this smart city for? Will the benefits of this multi-billion-dollar technological revolution be distributed fairly? Or will it create a digital caste system? Imagine a city where affluent neighborhoods have self-healing power grids, instant emergency services, and pristine, robot-swept streets, all optimized by a dense network of sensors. Now imagine other neighborhoods just a few miles away that are deemed a lower priority for investment. They become data deserts left behind by the wave of progress. Or worse, they become data traps. Communities that are already over-policed could find themselves subjected to predictive policing algorithms, which are notoriously prone to bias. These systems, trained on historical data that reflects existing inequalities, can create a vicious feedback loop, sending more patrols into the same neighborhoods, leading to more arrests, and further justifying the algorithm's initial prediction. This isn't a smarter, more efficient city. It's digital redlining, baked into the very infrastructure of the metropolis. If we build a system that only serves the privileged, we haven't built a smart city. We've built a high-tech fortress. And then there's the third pillar of this crisis of trust: security. A city with a centralized brain is a city with a single point of failure. When you connect the water supply, the electrical grid, the traffic control, and the public transit system to one vast, interconnected network, you create an attack surface of unprecedented size. We're not just talking about someone hacking your email, we're talking about someone hacking the city itself. A hostile actor a world away could shut down traffic lights at rush hour, creating citywide gridlock. They could poison the water supply or trigger a blackout. The very efficiency and interconnectedness that makes the smart city so appealing also makes it catastrophically vulnerable. Every smart device is a potential unlocked door. Every sensor a potential spy. This isn't theoretical fear-mongering. This is the precise reason that grand projects like Sidewalk Lab's vision for a tech-driven district in Toronto collapsed. It wasn't because the technology wasn't impressive, it failed because the project couldn't answer these fundamental human questions. The citizens pushed back. They refused to trade their privacy and autonomy for convenience. They refused to trust a black box algorithm with the future of their community. So is the dream dead? Are we destined to abandon this incredible potential because the human risks are too great? Absolutely not. But it means we have to stop leading with the technology and start leading with our values. The solution isn't less technology. It's more transparency, more accountability, and more citizen control. First, we need radical transparency. Cities and their corporate partners must be completely open about what data they are collecting, why they are collecting it, and how it is being used. This means public data dashboards, readable privacy policies that aren't buried in 50 pages of legalese, and independent, citizen-led oversight boards with the power to audit these systems and shut them down if they cross a line. The data belongs to the people, and the people have a right to know what's being done with it. Second, we must fundamentally shift the model of data ownership. Your data should not be a resource to be extracted, like oil from the ground. It should be your property. We need to build systems where citizens have granular control, where they can provide and revoke consent for specific uses of their data. Imagine a civic data trust, a neutral third-party organization that holds the data on behalf of the citizens, ensuring it's used only for the public good, not for corporate profit or government overreach. This transforms residents from passive data points into active stakeholders in their city's digital future. And third, we must design for equity from day one. This means not just deploying technology in underserved communities, but co-designing it with them. It means running community workshops to ask residents, what are your biggest challenges? How could technology help solve them? It means ensuring that the datasets used to train municipal algorithms are audited for bias, and that there are clear human-led appeals processes for any decision made by an AI. An equitable smart city doesn't just avoid doing harm. It actively works to repair historical injustices and close the gap between the haves and the have-nots. Make no mistake, this is the hard part. It's far easier to lay fiber optic cable and install sensors than it is to build trust, to legislate privacy, and to fight for equity. But this is the only path forward. Because the true promise of 5G and edge computing was never just about faster downloads or self-driving cars. It was about creating urban environments that are more sustainable, more resilient, and more humane. It was about using this incredible technological leap to solve our oldest and most stubborn civic problems, to make our cities work better for everyone. The technology is here. It is unbelievably powerful, and its potential is breathtaking. It offers us a chance to reinvent the very idea of what a city can be. But the technology itself is agnostic. It has no ethics, no values. It will be what we decide to make it. It can become a tool of unprecedented liberation and efficiency, or a tool of oppression and control. The choice is ours. We are standing at a crossroads, and the decisions we make in the next decade will shape the urban world for the next century. The smartest cities aren't just betting on 5G and edge computing. They're betting on their people. They're betting that we can be wise enough to build a future that is not only smart but also just. The question is no longer can we build the city of the future. The question is, what kind of future are we brave enough to demand?